This is Caitlin, your host of the No Sleep for Dramas podcast, where we get no sleep and survive on coffee to watch just one more episode at night. Welcome to a special episode of No Sleep for Dramas, and we are starting a new series. This is all about variety shows. I am a regular watcher of variety shows. I wish I watched more variety shows. So, in the hopes of watching more variety shows, I plan on starting this series. As you can see, it is called Break with Variety. The first 2 episodes of this series are going to be special episodes, like not in my regular scheduled Wednesday podcast episode schedule, because they maybe the first 3, depending on the weeks. As you can see, this episode is based off of the airing Japanese variety show called The Boyfriend. I want to do this series for this reality show because I'm obsessed with it and I need to talk about it. And I feel like I want more people to talk about it with. So what do I do to get more people to watch the show? I talk about it on my podcast. I want more people to watch variety shows. I want more people to know about variety shows, to know about good ones, at least ones I enjoy. There are a lot of variety shows out there across all Asian countries. I have not watched a ton of them, so this is also a series that will allow me to check out the ones I haven't watched yet, and the ones I've heard is good. I am very biased when it comes to these types of variety shows that The Boyfriend is, where you put a group of people in a house, whether they're looking for friendship, romance, anything like that. I love those types of variety shows. I have watched other variety shows though too, so in the future maybe I'll put out like my favorite variety shows list or something. I have wrote that on my blog like 4 years ago and it has not been updated. But I want to start this series. It will be special episodes for the month of July. I plan on doing a full recap review on my regular Wednesday schedule in August once The Boyfriend is complete, which it ends July 30th, but you will be getting special episodes about the show for the month of July until it is complete, and then we will wrap it up in the regularly scheduled show. So welcome to the new variety show series called Break with Variety. Let me know if you like that name. I'm still kind of trying to play around with it. Okay, so a little background of me and variety shows. I was very late to variety shows. I think I probably only started watching them in the last 5 years, maybe. And I really have not watched a ton of them. I watched certain ones from certain genres, like The Boyfriend. They're romance, a group of people in a house, either becoming friends, knowing each other, working together, romance stuff, or food. Like, that's pretty much the 2 genres I tend to gravitate towards. I know there are plenty of variety shows I have not watched that I want to watch, which is why I'm starting this show. Also, I know, as I said, a bunch of people have no idea these types of shows exist, and I want to bring light to those shows as well. I also have watched competition variety shows like Queendom or Kingdom, things like that. I know Road to Kingdom is starting up in October, I want to say. So I will be having this series around that show as well. So that's pretty much what I gravitate towards. Food, the romance ones, and some of the competition ones. I get very anxious when I watch the competition ones, so I usually have to take a break before I watch another competition one. So I have not watched every competition K-pop one before, but I've watched a fair number, not everything. Like, I've watched at least one of the produce series, Kingdom, Queendom, Road to Kingdom, that type of stuff. But as I said, my favorite genre of variety shows is the romance ones. I'm a sucker for the romance ones. And which is funny because I do not like American for like reality TV. I do not like it. It's too dramatic for me. It's too crazy for me. Like, I'm more of a cozy, low-key vibe type of variety show, and usually that is Asian variety shows. I sure there's ones out there that are a lot more dramatic, but all the ones I have watched have been very low-key, subtle, calm type of thing, and that is my bread and butter of variety shows. I love like the calming aspect of these variety shows. So when I heard The Boyfriend was coming out, I think I heard about it in June or maybe May. I knew immediately I was going to watch this show just because there were so many factors in the show that I knew I would love, and I knew I would become obsessed with it. And due to other shows I've already watched, I knew it would be a show I liked. So, for example, this reminded me a lot of Heart Signal, which is kind of like the same concept, except it's not a gay man show. It's just a heterosexual couple up show, kind of like this. I have not seen His Man. This is my first gay variety show. If you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, so variety shows in general are basically like Asian reality TV. They're just a lot, in my experience, they're a lot less dramatic and a lot less like drama filled, and they're a little more wholesome, in my opinion. Probably not all of them in the entirety existence of Asian variety shows are like this, but all the ones I have seen have become a little more wholesome, in my opinion. They're a lot less dramatic. They may have a little drama, but it's more subtle. It's not screaming at each other and storming out of the house and that type of thing. Maybe that has happened at some point. I don't know. But that is why I like Asian variety shows so much, is because they're a lot less dramatic and they're a lot more wholesome, in my opinion. Again, I have not seen 100% of these variety shows. There could be one out there that is like this. Just in my experience, compared to American reality TV, I do not like American reality TV just because it just seems over dramatized. It seems over dramatic, over crazy. I don't like it. I tend to gravitate towards Asian variety shows. So, the variety show that we are watching, or not watching, I am watching this, but we are talking about today in our special intro, is The Boyfriend. The Boyfriend is a Japanese variety show that's airing on Netflix. It is 10 episodes in total. We have 3 that came out this past week, so I will be talking about those first 3 episodes. If you do not want to be spoiled on this show, I'm going to do an intro to the show. I'm going to talk about all of the contestants. I'm going to talk about like the setup of the show and maybe like why I like this genre. I will announce when I head into spoiler territory. So if you hear all of that information and say, hey, this is something I want to watch, you can pause my podcast episode there, go watch the 3 episodes and come back, because after that initial warning, I will be talking about spoilers, because I want to talk about the couples, I want to talk about the people, I want to predict maybe what I want to see in the show. I want to talk about like my reaction to the show and what I think about the first 3 episodes. So I will be talking about spoilers. So you will get a warning before I move into spoiler territory. But there will definitely be spoilers for the first 3 episodes of this show in this podcast after I enter the show. Once we move on to other episodes of this show, of Break with Variety Show, talking about The Boyfriend, I will be doing spoiler warnings for every episode, but I will not be introing the show after this initial episode, because what's the point of like telling you about The Boyfriend again and introducing all the castmates every episode? That doesn't make sense. I think there's at least going to be 3 episodes to the Boyfriend series. There might be 4. It depends on like how the episodes roll out, because we get 3 this past week. I think it's because there's 10 in total, so it'd be 3. I think it's 3, 3, 2, 2, but I could be wrong on that. I know that someone posted a schedule somewhere. Let me quickly look. I think it's on the MDL page at the very bottom in like the comments, because I know we got the first 3 episodes when it premiered. So that is the 3 that I am going to be talking about. but I think due to the numbers, it's going to be a 4-week show, if I'm correct. I know it ends on July 30th. I know that's when we get the last of the episodes. So we got 3 episodes on the 9th. Then we have 3 episodes on the 16th. And then we have 2 episodes on the 23rd. And then we get the last 2 episodes on the 30th. Now, one thing that is a little different with this show compared to the other dating house shows I've seen, these episodes are significantly shorter. With most variety shows I've encountered, whether that's the romance ones or the food ones that I've said, the episodes are an hour and a half usually, almost an hour and a half, like an hour, 20 minutes or something. They're long episodes usually. This is not the case. This is 45 minutes. It goes by real fast. So The Boyfriend is a Japanese variety show. It started on the 9th. It goes until the 30th, as I just said. 3 episodes, 2 episodes, 2 episodes. It is a gay man variety show. Basically, they take a group of men who live under one house, under one roof, and run a coffee truck together. And they live in this house for a month. And they become friends, try to find romantic relationships, just get to know each other. It's a LGBTQ plus dating variety show. If you have seen His Man, here it's basically the same concept of His Man, except His Man, I think they said, was a week versus this is them staying in a house over a month. I have not seen His Man, so I don't know the similarities or differences. I just have been told there are similarities. So, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 8 contestants currently that have shown up in the first 3 episodes. According to what I could Google, there might be a 9th, but the 9th person has not shown up yet. So I'm going to go through the 8 people that we know of, and then I'll also name the one person that apparently is in the list, but we have not seen yet. So in the first 3 episodes, we are introduced to Alan, who is a half Brazilian, Italian, and Japanese. He's a mixed race Japanese person. He's 29, and he apparently works for an IT company. Then we have Dai, who's 22. He's a university student. If I mispronounce any of these names, I do apologize. We have Gensei, who's 34. He's a hair and makeup artist from Taiwan, but he is Japanese, if I recollect correctly. We have Kazuto, who is a chef who is 29. We have Ryota, who is a model and barista who is 28. We have Shun, who is 23 and he is an artist. We have Taehoon, who is 34 and who lives in Korea and is a designer. And then we have Usak, who is 36 and he is a go-go dancer. Apparently there is a 9th person who shows up eventually. They have given no information on when this guy comes on or if he comes on, but apparently there is another guy called Ikuyo, Ikuo, who is 22, works in the food service industry, and he eventually will come on the show. I have never heard of I've seen dating shows where they do add new people, like Alan. Alan came in on the 3rd episode. So they started out with 7 people, I think, and then Alan showed up in the 3rd episode. So I've seen that happen before. That's not uncommon in Asian variety shows where you have this group of people that start out in the beginning and then they add new people. Usually it's 2 to 3 people, but usually it's an even number if I can recollect correctly. I haven't watched a season of Heart Signal in years, like a couple years, so I might not be remembering that correctly, but I don't remember it ever being a odd number of people. So that will be interesting that actually happens. But currently we do have 8 people. Maybe this means somebody leaves though too. I don't know. I have watched dating shows where people have left the house and they've had to replace it with somebody else. That has happened in other seasons of other shows before. So I don't know. So they are in a house together, and then they have started doing a coffee truck, and that's basically how, so they live in the house, they cohabitate in this house, and then they go and work this coffee truck during the day and earn money. So the whole concept is they're earning money through this coffee cup truck. So they are not given like a budget or anything. They have to budget themselves. They have to grocery shop themselves. They don't come in with a certain amount of money. So they're all on basically equal playing field. They can leave the house though. So we have had a couple of people who've had to leave the house due to work, due to social obligations, things like that. So it's not like they're stuck in this house. They just have a budget that they have to work with, and they have to they don't have to make a certain amount of money every day, but they make money off of this coffee truck. So that's pretty much the concept of The Boyfriend. That's really what they're doing. They're living for a month together, 10 episodes. It's a beach house. Like, they live kind of on the coast. So the idea is like they're there to make friends, and then they also are trying to find a partner. And some people are really into finding a partner and like want to get married. Some people just want a relationship. It depends on the person. So that's pretty much the setup of the show. Why I like the show. As I said, I love Heart Signal. Heart Signal is the same concept. It puts a bunch of people in the house. They become friends. They start dating. They go on dates. It's pretty much the same concept. But this is a gay male show. The interesting thing about this show, too, is, correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I'm aware, being gay in Japan, pretty much every Asian country, but Japan specifically, and this is a Japanese variety show, is not like legal. Like, there's no same-sex marriage law in Japan, as far as I'm aware. So, and when I went to Japan, as I said, I am part of the LGBTQ plus community. When I went to Japan and we went to the gay bars in Tokyo, they were very strict on where you could and could not go. I was with a gay male friend of mine, and there were bars that he could not go into because it was only women who could go in. There were bars I could not go into because it was only men. It was very underground. Like, you went to a certain neighborhood and it was like 2 blocks of bars, and that's it. Like, you knew where they were. It was like a open secret that this is where they were and this is where you went. But you walk past these 2 blocks and you wouldn't even know you were in the gay, quote unquote, gay district of Tokyo. Like, it was very enclosed, not really advertised. You kind of had to know where you were going. You kind of had to know what bar you were walking into. There were a couple bars in the area that were more made for international people, which is where we ended up going, because it just turned out that I could not go into bars if it was a male bar, and he could not go into bars if it was a female bar. That was just the rules. So there were a couple bars there that for more international people who were there on vacation and wanted to visit the gay scene, you did have a couple bars you could go and it'd be female, male, whoever was in that bar. But overall, you had bouncers at these doors saying you can't enter because you're a female, or you can't enter because you're a male. It was interesting to see because it was something we obviously have never encountered in the United States. Yeah, so that was pretty much my only encounter with the gay culture in Japan. Again, very superficial international experience. Like, obviously, I don't live in Japan. I have never really tried to immerse myself. My friend was there for 2.5 years. He probably would know much more information than me. I was only there for 10 days, but that was like my little exposure to being gay in Japan. And it seemed like a very underground thing, just something you know is there, but not really talked about. So this show is kind of groundbreaking in terms of it. These contestants are basically announcing for the most part. There's some contestants on this show that have not come out to their families. So they're basically announcing to their families as well as other people that they are gay. So that is really interesting to see. And I'm obviously that's like not the only time we've ever seen this happen on a TV show, whether that's America or anything. But I find that fascinating in terms of this being from Japan, a Japan like variety show from Japan, and it's about being gay. And I also like the fact not everybody is a gay man. Some are bisexual. They do talk about that on the show, and they do announce that on the show. That will be interesting. There already have been a couple conversations about that in the show. So I commend those two people. There's two cast members who are bi. And I like when that kind of starts those conversations. So not everybody is a gay man. Some are bi men as well. And again, it's like to have this as like Japan's first gay dating show. It's just really interesting to like first have gay men, but also have bi representation is again kind of groundbreaking in my opinion. Like these are men who in wide range of men who are going to explore what it is to be a gay Japanese man and living in Japan and then reflecting on their own sexuality, I'm sure, and seeking that companionship, whether that's friendship or not, through a Japanese variety show. What I do love about these shows too is, and I have seen this from Heart Signal, these people become friends after this show. Like there's this show, this Korean variety show that I think is actually called Friends that is from season 3 of Heart Signal, I want to say, maybe season 4. And it basically brings back the housemates of that season, whether they were romantically connected or not. And they made a little variety show of like a year later, maybe, or 2 years later. And it's really like them just hanging out as friends. Like this show, in my experience, this concept of a show, these people become friends. And you see that on their social media later. You see that just within the show itself. Like they make friends out of these shows as well. So I'll be curious to see who kind of hooks up romantically, but also hooks up as friends afterwards or as friends in the show, because you can kind of already see that. So that's pretty much all I can say without spoiling anything. And now I want to move kind of into spoilers. So this is your spoiler warning. I have introduced the show. I have introduced the concept of the show. I've introduced the cast members. I now want to talk about my opinion, what really kind of happened in every episode. Not like a full like scene by scene breakdown, but like major parts of the episodes, major like who I like, what I think of all the characters, that type of thing. So I kind of want to go into that, which means I have to talk about spoilers. So this is your warning. Now we are moving into spoiler territory for the first 3 episodes of The Boyfriend. If you do not want to be spoiled on this show, please go and watch the first 3 episodes and then come back and listen to the spoiler section of this episode. If you don't care about spoilers, you can continue listening. That's fine with me, but just know we are moving into spoilers. So, episode 1 obviously is people starting to move into the house. So we have, I want to say, I know Taehyun was the second person. I think Dai was the first person to move into the house, actually. I don't know. I can't remember. But you like, the show starts out as like people walking into the house and meeting each other. And it's always awkward. It's always awkward because you have this show where people are very reserved, just like the culture in general are very reserved. I've seen this in Heart Signal. I've seen this in other variety shows, like Asian variety shows. Like, it's always awkward when they meet each other. So over time, I think it was like 6 of them met pretty much right away. And then a couple people came later. I mean, I just said Alan came on episode 3, but like even within the first episode, I think Kazuto didn't show up until nighttime because he had work and he had to work later. So I think we had 6 of them show up first. Oh, and then also another aspect of this show, which is really good, is they have a panel of people who are commenting on what's happening on the show. I don't know who these people are. The only person I kind of recognize as one of them is from Terrace House, which is another Japanese variety show. I don't know who any of these other people are. I normally don't. Like with Heart Signal, they tend to pull in celebrities like actors and actresses, like Korean or Chinese actors and actresses. So I know some of those people on the panel. And then also like some in Korea, they pulled in like a variety host that you would recognize. In this show, in The Boyfriend, I don't know any of them except for I recognize the guy from Terrace House, but I don't even remember if he was a contestant or he like was also a host. I can't remember. So you also have a panel of people who are commenting on what's going on in every episode. So the people I like, in at least from the first episode, the people I kind of was drawn to first was Kazuto, who was the chef, because one, when I watch these shows, and I said this on my stories, I tend to gravitate for people who are more my personality, like more of the reserved, not very loud and not very outgoing, like kind of observer of the groups. And so Ryota, the model, really stood out to me because he was more reserved, a little more awkward. I liked his reasoning though. His reasoning of being on the show is he wanted to put himself out there. He wanted to take the risk of that, which I like that. That kind of resonated with me. Kazuto, I think his entrance into the show was very impactful because a lot of people kind of just showed up with their suitcase or whatever, and he showed up later. But one of the reasons why he was so late is he stopped by the store and picked up dinner and like cooked for everybody. And he's a chef, so he cooked very well. And I thought that was a brilliant idea. To one, people that made an impact for people. People were very grateful for having a chef in the house. Two, he kind of got to interact with a bunch of people because he was like, who wants to be my sous chef? And he got to already have kind of like a makeshift date on day one, interacting with these contestants right away. And you got to see some of his chemistry with some of these contestants within 2 hours of him in the house, which I thought was sweet because his interactions with these people, like Ryota, I remember him and Ryota having a very good reaction. And then later on, him and Taehoon, I thought had great chemistry together. So I would love to see him and Taehoon maybe go on a date. So I love that idea. I think that made a really good impact in the first episode, just because it also, I got attached to him because of that too, because he was using his strength to make an impact, and his strength is food. And who does not love a partner who can cook? I also was immediately drawn, my last person was Taehoon, the designer guy. I liked how practical he was. He was kind of the person when they find out that they have to run a coffee truck. He was the one that was like, okay, what's going to be the name? Who's going to go? I think he's the oldest of the cast members. If not, he's like second oldest. He's older than a lot of the cast members. So, and that kind of came out in terms of he kind of took charge in organizing and everything. I think, yeah, he's the second oldest. Usak is the oldest. So he immediately was like, what should the name be? What should the logo look like? What should we serve? That type of thing. So that was fun because I saw his personality kind of take, and he was just in his explanation of being there on the show. You could kind of tell that he has a lot of life experience, but also like is there to find somebody. He's not there to like play around, which in all honesty, a lot of these characters give off that. Like, yeah, Dai had more playful personality, but most of these characters are there and you get that impression to find somebody, which is refreshing when it comes to a dating show, especially if you're in the used to like American dating shows. That's not always the case. You could tell a lot of these cast members are there to find somebody and at least make some friends. So Shun and Dai pretty much like pair up automatically, which is funny because a lot of people like Shun. I get it. He's a good looking guy. He's also really young. He's like 23, and Dai's on the younger side too. Dai's like 22. I think he's the youngest. I'm not sure about Shun and Dai. At least in the first episode, I didn't like them together. I also didn't like them separately. Shun was very reserved and very kind of standoffish. And he would say one thing, but then act differently. He grew on me after the second or third episode, especially when he started opening up and talking about his past. First episode, I did not really like him. Dai, like that he was more outgoing. When you have a group of people like this who, especially living in a culture who is more inherently reserved and do not take risks very much and aren't just built to share their feelings and to say what they're thinking, helps when you have personalities like Dai who are refreshing in terms of they do say what they're thinking and they're very open of their feelings, but also they can bring that out of other people. So I like Dai as an individual. Shun has grown on me as an individual. Not really sure about them together. I could see them working out together. They're the early couple. They got a lot of screen time in the first 3 episodes, but I think that's because they are the early couple. So a lot can happen. This happens all the time in reality shows, in variety shows, in these romance variety shows. You have an early couple, they get a lot of screen time, they go on dates together. Either they stay together and they're steadfast until the end, or they break up for various reasons. Adding a new cast member happens a lot with that, where you add a new cast member and one of them is attracted to the cast member and they break up, or something happens and they just break up and they decide to go see other people. Other times they're together the entire time. I could see that happening both ways with this couple. Even in the first episode, like I could see them sticking it out. I know from like the title sequence and the trailers, we still have scenes of them together we haven't seen yet. I could see them sticking it out and it being good for them and liking them as a couple. I also can see it as them being beneficial of them dating other people and having experience seeing other people. So I'm not really sure how I feel about them because I like them. I especially like them after all 3 episodes, but also wish they would date other people and like experience other dates, especially Shun. I think Shun needs to experience other people because from what we learned in episode 2 and 3, he has a lot of trauma from his past romantic relationships, and I think it would benefit him on going on dates with other people. Moving on to episode 2, I think it was episode 2 that Shun went on a date with Taehoon, and I thought that was a lovely date. When I say date, is like they went and worked a coffee truck together. So episode 2 is when we worked a coffee truck. Like they worked a coffee truck. So episode 1 is they all moved in, kind of got to know each other, got to talking. Beautiful house, by the way. Episode 2, the coffee truck was introduced, and we got the first day of working the coffee truck. And I want to say it was first, because Shun and Dai did it one day. Taehoon and Shun did it one day. Gensei and Ryota did it. And I want to say they were the first ones, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I can't remember. But in episode 2, they also learned how to make coffee in episode 2, which was great because it was kind of like mini dates. Some people paired off in 2, which I think was Shun and Dai, and then there was 3 people that were cool and working together, and Dai had to leave early, so eventually it was Shun doing himself. But they had a good chemistry making the coffee together, but you could tell Shun was still a little bit closed off. Like he just doesn't know what he wants, especially when it comes to Dai. You also got Usak, and if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, I'm sorry. Usak was also introduced in episode 2, which was an interesting introduction because he's a go-go dancer. So they went to his bar, and they watched his show, and then he comes in as a contestant. Maybe that was the end of episode 1. I could be wrong. But the funniest thing in episode 2, which a lot of people talked about in the social media, is Usopp is very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Determined is not the word. He has to stay fit for his job because he's dancing with his shirt off. So he is very strict. That's the word I'm looking for. Strict on his diet. So he basically makes a chicken shake, at least for breakfast. I don't know if he eats that the entire thing and that's it all day, but he just basically eats a ton of protein. So he shows up, makes this chicken shake, eats it on camera, like people, and even Kazuto is like, I went to work and I made this shake and tried it. It's disgusting. Like, that was a little comedy. I think Kazuto and Ryota was going grocery shopping, I think, or maybe they were working the coffee truck. But either way, Kazuto tried it at his restaurant. He was disgusted by it. But they caused a little drama because they had the budget and they found out that Usopp's chicken shake was the most expensive in the budget, and they had to like convince him to buy cheaper chicken, or at least find something that could buy cheaper chicken. And that was like the most drama we had in the show. Like, that was the drama, which was kind of hilarious because you're expecting people to be like, and it wasn't even drama. They didn't yell at each other or anything. They found the correct price chicken. But it was funny, like that was the dramatic part of this show. And then the youngest person in the house, because he was deemed the budget person, had to tell him that his chicken was the most expensive. But again, episode 2 was very much Dai and Shun forward. Again, mainly because they were the couple. They were the person who coupled up first. I loved the fact that, I want to say it was this episode. Yeah, Shun opened up a lot in episode 2. He talked about his former relationship. He talked about what he was looking for. He was careful with what he said. You could tell this guy went through a lot. And I grew to like Shun a lot more in episode 2. Also, though, I love Ryota. And the fact that Ryota said in episode 2 that he was attracted to Shun. I'm like, oh, honey, no. I forgot to talk about too. So in episode 1, I don't think they did this in the other episodes. In episode 1, what they ended up at the last like thing you saw was you had to write a letter to the person you found attracted to, just had that first impression that made a good impression on you, and you put that letter in a box on their bedroom door, and the next morning they would wake up and it was an anonymous letter. You didn't know who wrote it, so some people got 5, some people got 3, some people got 1, some people got 0. Ryota got 0, and I was so sad because I love him so much. He just is such a sweet guy, and it just looks so sad. And then Shun during that entire time was like, I'm not expecting a letter. I'm not expecting anybody, and he get like 4 or something. I'm like, dude, do you know how good looking you look? Of course you're gonna get some. So it'll be interesting. And you also, as an audience member, don't know who wrote them. Eventually, some are revealed, but some aren't. So we still don't know some of the people who wrote those letters. So it was interesting to see who got them and who didn't after the first day. Shun was kind of given, but I was so sad that Ryota didn't get one. Also, I don't think Taehoon got either. Like, basically my favorites didn't get anything, which in my opinion made sense because they were on the quiet side. So that was interesting. That was the drama of episode 1, is like, who's gonna write these letters and who is gonna get them and receive them. But Ryota too, in episode 2, really kind of shows how good of a friend he wants to be to everybody. Shun really opened up to Ryota in terms of just being a comfortable listener. Ryota's a really good listener. He's a very comfortable person to listen to, like, who could be a good ear for people. And that really showed in episode 2. So, like that about his character a lot. The thing with this episode and episode 3, Kazuto had to go off for work, so he doesn't get a lot of screen time at all. Ryota got a lot of screen time because, not a lot, but fair amount of screen time because he was that listener for Shun. Dai and Shun got a lot of screen time. Usopp got a lot of screen time because of the chicken smoothie, but not really that much. He's like more of the quieter side. That thing is mainly like Dai and Shun. And I think this is when we learned some of them were bi as well in episode 2. I want to say Ryota and Kazuto. Like, Kazuto did the coffee truck. And they have, what I love about the coffee truck dates, quote unquote, is they work and then they have these conversations at the end. So you see these two people who've worked all day together, maybe build up some chemistry, and then have these meaningful conversations. So Kazuta had a great conversation about family expectations within this show and questioning why they were born like this and why they couldn't just be straight and that type of thing. So you had a lot of opening up in this episode. Like Ryota and Gensei really thinks Ryota had a thing for them and finds out in episode 3 that that might not be the case. I really hope that Ryota, because I think by episode 3 Ryota realized he doesn't really has a chance with Shun, especially with Shun and Dai being so public that they do like each other. Everybody knows it. So I'm hoping Ryota kind of like moves on and still is that friend to Shun, but like realizes Shun is not going to be his. So, and Gensei really thought they had something. They had really good chemistry in their work day with the coffee truck. So I really hope he gives Gensei a chance. Taehoon, I want to say it was episode 3 that they did like a beach day. And so we obviously had like shirts off and everything. So that was commented in episode 3. Taehoon has a nice body. Dai also has a nice body. But yeah, episode 2, we saw a lot of people opening up a lot more. Dai is very straightforward. That's nice to see, as I said. It's just, it's wholesome in terms of people are, for the most part, respectful of other people. They open up a lot. It's adorable because there's a little, like, they're a little nervous around each other still. It's a different vibe, I would say. The other thing that happened in episode 2, though, is like, so the drama in episode 2, I guess, was the chicken smoothie, but also in episode 2, Shun apparently sees a nude on Dai's phone. You don't see it, but his demeanor really changes with Dai after that. And after finding out his backstory on his own dating experience, and you kind of understand his reaction. And people have a mixed feeling about this. People either do not like the fact that Shun kind of closed up again after seeing that photo, and other people understand that and like the fact that Shun kind of opened up in episode 2. And I'm in that type of camp. I understand that Japanese culture in general is a little more conservative. That reaction really was not surprising to me, but then you add on the fact of Shun's history, and that really gave a lot of background to it and like reasoning to his reaction. So it'll be interesting to see. But then Dai, I don't think Dai is definitely more outgoing. You can definitely tell he's dated around. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, though. A lot of people are saying, like, Dai is a red flag. I could see that. But at the same time, I don't inherently think that's a bad thing either. I think maybe he did that in the past and now wants to be more serious in the relationship. But also, he's young. Him and Shun are 22, 23, whereas we have Taehoon, who's 34, and Usopp, who's 36. Like, there's a wide range of ages in this house. So it's not really that surprising. But I mean, Shun's backstory is heartbreaking. Like, he opens up, even in episode 3, he opens up a lot more about his family and then the lack thereof of family, like foster care, all that stuff. Like, the more you learn of Shun, the more you're like, oh, poor baby. I can understand where you're coming from. And that's what I like about shows like this. Like, you may have a first impression of somebody and then you learn more about them and you either do not like them or you empathize with them more. And most of the time with these shows, in my experience, you empathize with people more. It's very rare I don't like a person on these shows. Dai, like his personality. I really just think I like that fact he's like very forward with his feelings with Shun. Like, he found out Shun opened up to him, and he has these conversations with him. He tries to reassure him. And I think that's a good approach. Like, it's not like he tried to put Shun down. He tried to really listen and tried to not give an opinion, but reassure him. And I think that's really a good approach to that when that type of thing comes out. It'll be interesting to see if they continue as a couple, because there are times where it's like there's only so much you can do. And if your partner is still not willing to take the next step, you have to walk away. So it'll be interesting to see if, because of course, episode 3, they end on sort of a cliffhanger, which they do all the time. So, which is why I like binging these versus having to wait a week. But I can understand Shun's hesitancy on that type of stuff because he's had such a rough life. And the reason why I'm talking about Shun and Dai so much is because they really had a lot of screen time with this. Like, they really concentrated on them a lot, which gives them people talk. People like that. They are divisive. So I don't know. I'm more leaning on Shun versus Dai just because I don't know. I don't know about Dai. I like that Dai wears his heart on his sleeve, but I really think they would both benefit of dating other people. Not that they can't come together again, but in my opinion, I think they should date other people. Because Shun went on like a coffee truck date with Taehoon, I think in episode 3, and it was a really nice, cool date. Like, really nice. But I can't deny Dai and Shun have good chemistry. They definitely like each other. So I don't know. And then episode 3 also, Alan was added, which added more drama to Dai and Shun because apparently Dai knows Alan. And you could tell Shun was not comfortable with that when Alan walked in. I think Alan is going to be a fun character because grew up in Brazil. He's half Japanese, half Brazilian, a little Italian. So he has not grown up in the Japanese society, which makes him a little more loud, makes him a little more forward. And these shows need that type of personality sometimes. Like, you need people to be forward and to take that step and say, hey, I like you. Because a lot of these people are reserved and don't want to say that and don't want to be rejected. So then you have Alan walk in and he's like, okay, I'm going to say it how it is. I like you. I ask the hard questions. I want the answers. So it'll be interesting to see if Dai and Shun survive Alan, because at the beginning of episode 3, that looked like that would be a really major thing. But then Dai kind of got mad at Alan, and Shun went to support him, and they had a really nice conversation with that. So it could bring them closer together too. So it will be interesting. People were speculating that Dai and Alan would get together because apparently they've slept together before. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think they're going to date other people. I do not think they will ever be together. Could be wrong on that, but I don't think that will happen. I think episode 3, though, we did have a lot of good conversations with especially Shun and Dai. And they went on a date at the end. They seem to have a really good time, but they need to have some fast conversations to solidify their relationship, or they're going to break up, in my opinion. It just, in their date at the end of the episode, I just did not get the impression Shun was interested anymore. So they really need to establish that they're not. And that might be editing. That might be the fact that they just edited that weird to save the suspense until episode 4, but I don't know. I really think after Shun saw that picture, he kind of closed off a little bit, and I think they might be benefited from seeing other people and seeing where it goes. But I could also see them being together for the rest of the show, because in trailers and stuff, we have seen scenes of them together that we have not gotten in the first 3 episodes yet. So what I really want, though, is the other characters. I really want to see other people. Ryota and Gensei, I think they could work if Ryota gets out of wanting to be with Shun. I think that kind of happened in episode 3. He saw that they were pretty much a couple. Hopefully he'll move beyond that. Kazuta, if he ever gets back from his work job, I think he would be a good addition. I think Alan hasn't even met Kazuto yet, if I remember correctly, because he's been working the entire time. And I think in a preview, we saw Kazuta and Alan like in a sauna together. They have a sauna at the house. So that'll be interesting to see who like pairs up a little bit. I just really want Ryota and Taehoon to like find somebody, but we'll have to see. Again, they concentrated a lot on Dai and Shun, so you didn't really see a bunch of other people. I'm like, now that I'm thinking about that trailer of like the one scene it showed Kazuta and Alan together, could see it. I really want more screen time with the other people. I really hope we get more screen time. Whether that means Shun and Dai kind of solidify themselves as like the couple and you don't need to concentrate on them anymore, or they break up and date other people. I don't know. I could see them going both ways. I could see them breaking up, quote unquote, breaking up, dating other people and coming back together, or I could see them not coming back together, or I could see them just staying together the entire time. So, and Usopp, like, is surprising too, because the impression of him being a go-go dancer, you think he'd be more loud, and apparently is famous as a go-go dancer. Apparently people know him. So him being on the show is a big deal because he's apparently very famous in those groups of people within the go-go dancing community, I guess the gay community in Tokyo, because he comes on the show and people are like, I remember they were at the club watching his performance and Kazuto's like, oh, I hope it's that dude. And he ends up being Uzak. He seems like a really nice guy, whether he likes chicken protein or not, like chicken smoothies or not. He seems like a sweet dude. So I want him to get more screen time. Taehoon, of course. The thing with this show and these type of shows, you kind of become attached to all of them eventually, and you just want them to be happy at the end of the day, whether that's finding somebody or just creating friendships. And overall, I just hope these guys are friends, and I hope that they find romance if they want romance, or if not, they just find companionship. I think that's what they want to find. So, predictions for future episodes. I think Shun and Dai, I really think they're not going to be, at least in the future, episode 4 and 5. I think they might break up a little bit and date other people and then see what happens later. Could be wrong on that, but that's kind of where I'm thinking, because I think Shun just needs to date other people. I think he got put off by seeing that photo of Dai on Dai's phone and he just closed up. And I think he really just needs to either figure himself out a little bit or maybe go and date other people and see if he actually likes Dai. I think they would benefit a lot from that. Alan, it'll be interesting because, again, the preview said he might be going on a date with Kazuto, which would be fun to watch. I really hope Ryota and Gensei explore the relationship. They had good chemistry when they worked together. Kazuta just needs to be on the show more. I think he's a really neat guy, and I think he could benefit. Also, I would love to have Kazuto and Taehoon go on a date together. I don't know. There's something about Taehoon with him being this planner person and older and appreciate, like, you could tell he was attracted to Kazuto from that first night when Kazuto cooked for everybody, but he just didn't want to say anything, so he kind of like took a step back. I could see him working well with Kazuto together. Also, though, Usopp showed off a talent where he is a really talented artist. Like, he did a sign for the coffee truck, and you could tell Taehoon kind of was impressed by that. So I could also see Taehoon getting together with Usopp too. Basically, I just want Taehoon to go on a date. Same with Usopp, same with Kazuto. So it'll be interesting. I really hope Ryuta gets off the Shun wagon. I want him to see other people. Like, he hasn't gone on a date, but I also think Ryuta's just a good friend. And I think he just has realized that Shun and him had a really nice conversation in episode 3 where you really understood that Ryota was friend zoned for the pretty much part, because Shun was asking him for advice on his relationship with Dai, and Ryota was really nice about it and said, hey, this is my opinion. But I think he got the idea that he was just not going to be Shun's person. So I hope he... And Gensei just was so sad because he thought he did have something with Ryota, and that just didn't happen. So I really hope that they explore those relationships and explore other people. And I hope the camera explores other people's relationships because, again, it did concentrate a lot on Shun and Dai. With the coffee truck, so the essentially is like every person gets a day. So new people are put in charge of the coffee truck per day, and they choose who they want to go with. So it's essentially them choosing go on another date with a person they want to like or they know already or want to know better. So they go on a one-on-one working day. And I think that's really cool because you get like dates built into the everyday lives. So it's not, for me, this show it's a wholesome, cozy watch. Like, it's not, who knows? It's not, I mean, it's only episode 3, so like you could have sex in the show if you really, it is Japan. With their dramas, Japan has a little more skinship. That could happen in a variety show, I guess. If I remember correctly, Heart Signal does have some kissing. That's a Korean show. China, as far as I know, has nothing as far as I can remember. But the focus is not sex like you do in American reality shows. Like the boyfriend is not, that is the focus as what you would see in American reality shows. It's not the thing. It's more of like chemistry, getting to know each other, more wholesome, which is why I like this show and other shows like this. So it's more of like a connection. They want the love connection. They don't necessarily want the physical connection. That might happen later, but currently right now it's just the love connection, which I always like about these shows because the physical connection may come later, might not, depending on the country, depending on the show. But it makes it charming, it makes it cozy, it makes it wholesome. It's like they're just there to have a connection, whether that's friendship or that's romance, to find a community, especially because this is the first gay Japanese variety show, and ultimately if romance comes out of it, it does. If it doesn't, it's friendship. And there's not really, like, the intention of drama is not really prevalent in these shows, in the ones that I've watched. Like, that is not the intention of these shows, is to be drama. There will be drama, I'm sure there is. There's going to be some heartbroken hearts. God, if Dai is rejected by Shun, he's going to be heartbroken for sure, and I will be feeling for him because he will definitely be showing that on screen because he is down hard for Shun right now. So you do get crying on the show, you do get heartbreak on these types of shows, but it's not as dramatic as American shows, which is why I love variety shows and which is why I'm starting this Break with Variety series, because I want people to watch more of these shows because people might not know how calm or cozy or wholesome these shows can be. So I'm excited to explore this. I'm excited to be very attached to these people and root for their relationships and their companionships, because I always do. But that's pretty much the first 3 episodes of this show and my predictions of this. Again, I really do not think Shun and Dai are going to stay together for the entirety of the show. They might come back to each other, but I think they will break up for a short period of time at least. Especially, there's just so much potential with other people, especially when we don't have everybody. Like, the 9th person coming in could shake things up a lot. Alan hasn't even been on a date with anybody yet, so that could shake a ton of stuff up. Kazuto, like, a lot of these people haven't been on dates. We really only got the first date is Dai and Shun, and that was episode 3. If you take away the coffee truck, quote unquote, dates. The first official date was Dai and Shun going to aquarium, and that date's not even done until episode 4. So a lot could happen. And also, like, if he's rejected on this aquarium date, that could be a lot too. So I honestly do not see them together. I could be wrong on that, but I don't see them lasting the entire show. They could come back later. Yeah. So that is my first episode of Break with Variety, my first talking about and coverage of the boyfriend. If you are not watching this variety show, I think you will enjoy it a lot, which is why I wanted to do this series to talk about this variety show. I think people will love this show. And especially if you are already watching His Man or you are already watching romance variety shows and you have not clicked play on this or you don't know exists, it's on Netflix, it's good. You will become attached. It's fun. It's different from like dramas. And also, if you have like a dry spell of like you're in a slump of dramas, check this out. Check a variety show out. Anyway, that is my first episode of Break with Variety, my first talking about a variety show. If you like this episode, let me know what you think. Let me know if you want more of content with variety shows. If you've seen the first 3 episodes of The Boyfriend, please DM me. I want your opinions. I want your predictions. I want to talk about this show. I love this show. Like, this is probably going to be a highlight of July for me. I am down bad for this show. I'm obsessed with this show. The Boyfriend's good. You're killing it, The Boyfriend. Like, first 3 episodes were amazing, so wholesome. I love it. I'm so excited for more episodes of this show. I wish I was not watching it as it aired. But yeah, that's your little break with variety. And I will see you probably next week when I talk about the next 3 episodes. Bye. If you want to continue the conversations about dramas that were started in this episode, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter under the username No Sleep for Dramas. That is No Sleep, the number 4 dramas, just like in the title of the podcast. This podcast is also an expansion of my blog, so you can visit my blog at www.nosleep4dramas.com, the number 4 dramas.com, and find multiple years of blog posts already available at your fingertips. All links are in the description of this episode. This has been an episode of the No Sleep for Dramas podcast, and I am your host, Caitlin. I will see you here next time, and I hope you get no sleep chasing the next episode just like me. Good night.